I'm afraid or embarrassed to ask about this, but I'll ask anyway. Is it true that in the 80s and 90s, parents actually let kids run around freely anywhere they wanted? Or is that just a movie cliche? In general, yes, at least that's how it was in our neighborhood. We lived in the middle of the woods with maybe 7 houses around, and we just spent the whole day playing outside. Man, those were the days. Same here. We lived out in the sticks, maybe 20 houses on our street. There was a creek in the forest nearby, and we basically disappeared there from morning till night. I don't even remember if I ever ate lunch. Our only rule at home was be back when the streetlights come on. The rest of the time, I was roaming the neighborhood with other semi-wild kids, only coming home if I needed food or the bathroom. There was even this PSA on TV at 10 p.m. Do you know where your kids are? And I'd be like, yup, I'm still outside playing. Most of us had so much freedom that it bordered on parental madness. These days, kids are objectively safer than we were back then. But honestly, the pendulum has swung way too far in the other direction. If a war suddenly broke out and there was a draft, could I just not go? A nationwide draft is pretty unlikely. Same as with the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. The government would probably just hand out juicy perks for joining the army and recruit soldiers through financial cluelessness and the dream of buying a shiny Dodge Chargerino. Back in the 60s and 70s, there were dodgers, people who straight up left their hometowns and moved to Canada. Yes, you can refuse to go. Most likely that ends with jail time. You could also declare yourself a pacifist, but that has a very specific legal meaning and requires proper justification. Even then, you'd still end up serving the state, just not in a military role, but in some other form. Ladies, serious question. Why do some of you get annoyed when your boyfriend plays video games but spend 3+ hours on TikTok yourselves? It's also a hobby, just a different kind. Why not focus on your own thing while he's occupied with his? I don't want to come off as a jerk, but we've all seen tons of posts where women complain their boyfriend or husband plays too much. And I'm talking about relationships where the guy is a gamer and the girl isn't, not the other way around. Here's the thing. If you're scrolling Netflix, TikTok, Pinterest, whatever for hours, how is that different from gaming? Why not just enjoy your hobby while he's gaming? He isn't shaming you for your interests. Does he get mad when you do something fun? I'm genuinely curious. I see this pattern all the time, both online and with friends. I'm not complaining. I'm pointing out a really common relationship dynamic, and anyone with eyes can see it. Relationships often boil down to either miscommunication or simple selfishness. Many people have preconceived notions about gaming and look down on gamers without even trying to understand it. They're not even interested in learning why it's fun. It's unhealthy. Sometimes it's about attention. People want attention, but when they're busy, they don't give it back. It's basically the same thing. Mindless TikTok scrolling is arguably worse. It's just entertainment. Of course, if someone completely abandons responsibilities for gaming, complaints are fair. But if he's still handling chores and duties, it's really none of your business. My main hobby is reading. The only thing that bugs me is when I'm in the living room reading and he gets mad that I'm nearby during his game. But as soon as the fight ends, he wants my attention immediately, even though I'm in the middle of a book. That's when I feel like messing with his gaming session a little. Why do people donate blood instead of selling it? It's a reasonable question. Almost everything has a price nowadays, so why is such a vital resource given voluntarily? Basically, it's to prevent people from giving too much blood just for money. Some poor folks might risk anything for quick cash. Plasma, however, can be sold, though there are strict limits on how much you can sell in a given period. In India, right after independence, people were actually paid to donate blood and plasma. It was a way to earn a few bucks for cigarettes or small necessities, not enough to cover monthly expenses, but enough for little things. The problem is, combining poverty with a lack of knowledge about safe donation practices can seriously harm health. And when people just see it as a quick way to make money, that can be risky. People even sell their social security numbers for cash, so blood isn't even the wildest example of risky transactions for money. At what age is it okay to leave a child alone in a car for a few minutes while you run into a store? My son keeps asking if he can stay in the car while I pay for gas or grab takeout. He's only 7 and I never allow it, but I wonder, when is it actually safe? Legally, it depends on a lot of factors. Practically, if a child can get out of the car and find you safely, it might be okay. In the UK, there's no minimum age. You just have to ensure the child's safety. Whether the child is safe always depends on the specific situation and the child's abilities. For example, if you leave a kid in the car and nothing happens, that's fine. If you leave them, the car catches fire and they can't escape because the doors are locked, that's a serious problem. It's a personal choice. You need to judge if your child is responsible enough and weigh the potential risks. I'm a little shy to ask this, but here we go. Why do Western tourists dress so strangely? I live in central Tokyo, where there are tourists from all over the world. And when it comes to clothing, Westerners, mostly white tourists, really stand out. Africans, Asians, and people from the Middle East are usually dressed casually, but not flashy. Button-down shirts, jeans, that sort of thing. Women, especially from Asia, often look very stylish. Floral tops, dresses, small practical handbags, and so on. But Western tourists, they either look like they're headed into some tropical survival expedition with massive backpacks stuffed as if for the apocalypse, even though they're just strolling around the city, or they look like oversized toddlers in shorts, flip-flops, and baseball caps. Older men sometimes try to add a bit of flair with a polo shirt, but it doesn't help much. I've been to many European countries, and I know this isn't their everyday style. So why, when traveling abroad, do they dress so comically? It's funny because in the West, people constantly make jokes about Chinese tourists with their giant sun visors, fanny packs, and oversized selfie sticks. In North America, wearing shorts in almost any warm weather is considered totally normal. Basically, if it's warmer outside than indoors, shorts are fair game. As for the rest, yeah, I can't really defend it. I guess it's just easier for them to carry their stuff that way. I'm from Ireland, and when I was in Japan last summer, I carried a backpack everywhere, just in case I wanted to buy water or something else, and I wore shorts every single day because it was nearly 40 degrees Celsius outside. The heat was unbearable, and I'm definitely not used to that. Why have people in India polluted their sacred river, the Ganges, so badly? From what I understand, the Ganges has enormous spiritual importance for Indians, especially Hindus, so why don't they take better care of it? How did it become so toxic and polluted? I worked with an Indian company on a project to modernize an industrial plant. We suggested a system to recycle wastewater back into the process. They refused. They just wanted to dump everything straight onto the ground. It took multiple meetings before we even realized that was their plan. I'm Indian, and honestly, it comes down to this. Modern Indian society largely doesn't care about the environment. Most people don't care about the quality of life of others. The only thing that matters is their own survival. With such extreme population density and constant struggle for resources, people don't think long-term. Ecology, community well-being, all that gets pushed aside. Yes, the Ganges is sacred, but somewhere along the way, people started thinking the river will clean itself. They perform rituals, toss in offerings, and then forget about the long-term consequences. Add to that a weak waste management system, industrial pollution and overpopulation, and the problem just snowballed. Awareness is slowly growing now. There's even a cleanup initiative called Namami Gange, but changing deep-rooted habits takes time. Many still truly believe in the river's divine power. Now the challenge is getting people, Indians themselves, to take real care of it. According to the CDC, 75% of Americans are overweight or obese. What's stopping more people from working out and staying in shape? There are a lot of factors. Here's just one. With the growth of the service economy, around 80% of jobs in the US are now sedentary. Human bodies simply aren't designed to sit all day, but that's what most of us do. Then we come home and sit some more in front of the TV, computer, or phone. About 70% of Americans commute by car, which means there's no movement built into daily life. And after work, it's the usual, I'm tired, I don't have money, I don't feel like going to the gym, and so on. I was in the best shape of my life when I didn't own a car and walked a couple miles every day. But so many American cities are sprawling and car-dependent that this kind of lifestyle has become almost impossible. I had to move further from the city center just to afford rent, and now there's literally nowhere to walk. That said, obesity is rising worldwide. Global rates have doubled in the last 30 years. Part of it is sedentary jobs, part of it is the easy availability of junk food and sugary drinks. Maybe hormones, plastics, pesticides play a role too. Who knows? Or maybe it's just that food is more abundant than ever before. America might be leading the pack, but it's definitely not alone. Recent science also shows that exercise isn't the main factor in weight loss. It helps reduce stress hormones like cortisol and fights inflammation, which is great, but it doesn't make you slim by itself. The body even compensates for regular workouts by lowering its baseline metabolism. When it comes specifically to obesity, not just related health risks like heart disease or strokes, the biggest factor is diet, what you eat and how much. Americans eat trash-tier food. Poor communities don't have access to healthy alternatives, there's weak regulation on food ingredients, and the culture leans toward carbs and greasy stuff instead of whole foods, veggies, and fruit. How can you tell if a girl or wife actually enjoyed the night? Sometimes it's hard to know if she really liked it or is just being polite. I want to learn how to read both physical and emotional signs and how to communicate about it. Honest advice would be great. If she needs a few minutes to lie in bed afterward, that's usually a good sign. Brother, just ask her. Good communication is all about talking. Pay attention to how quickly she gets up. If she immediately goes to the bathroom, maybe you didn't quite finish the job. If she stays in bed a bit longer, that's a sign you did great. Why do older South Asian couples always walk around the neighborhood with the husband way ahead of the wife? I live in northern New Jersey, where there are lots of first-generation immigrants from all over the world, and I keep noticing this one thing. Almost every time I see a South Asian couple, usually Indian, often 50+ years old, the husband is walking a good 6 to 10 meters ahead of the wife, so far ahead that they clearly can't even hear each other. I see it so often that I doubt it's just coincidence. I don't notice this with other ethnic groups, so I'm guessing it's a cultural thing, but I couldn't find an explanation online about whether this is really common in India. The husband usually has his hands behind his back too. Honestly, I think it's just their way of having a little me time. They're retired and spend all day at home together. This way they can keep an eye on each other without actually being in each other's space. Great question. My elderly parents are from South Asia, and you described them perfectly. I think it reflects their relationship dynamic. The husband is the head of the family, and he happily leads his wife on the walk. My dad always did this. As kids, we hated it because we literally had to jog to keep up. He would never slow down. Eventually, we just accepted it, let him march off ahead while we strolled at our own pace and actually enjoyed the walk without rushing. Are there men who genuinely like very plus-sized women and it's not just a fetish? I'm 23, 175 centimeters tall, and weigh 139 kilograms. I'm actively trying to lose weight to be healthier, but I also feel ready to get back into dating. I'm tired of putting my personal life on hold until I'm good enough. It could take a long time to lose a significant amount of weight, and honestly, I don't know what's ahead. Here's what worries me. If I meet a man who's genuinely attracted to me at 140 kilograms, does that mean he just has a fetish for larger women? Will he want me less if I lose weight later? On the flip side, I don't want to date someone who isn't physically into me right now and is secretly hoping I'll slim down, only to start judging me as lazy or unattractive if the weight doesn't drop fast enough. I'm not sure I'm explaining this well, but I just don't know if there are men who genuinely like women of my body type and won't turn away if I eventually lose weight and stop fitting the fetish category. I hang out in plus-size friendly circles, and I can tell you, there are a lot of people who are kind of bi-size. They like bodies of all shapes. Some men like larger women, but that doesn't mean they want them to gain or lose more weight. They just like different shapes. Personally, I've always been attracted to plus-size women. I've dated women of all kinds of builds. My current partner is plus size, but she wants to lose weight to be healthier, and I fully support her. I love her and will love her no matter her future size, whether she's slim, plus, or somewhere in between. So yes, there are men like that. Maybe more than you think. I met my wife when she was fuller bodied. I had always preferred thinner women, but I fell in love with her, not her figure. Since then, we've had 2 kids, and she's gained a bit more, but I love her even more now than ever. Sure, fetishes exist, and just like guys obsessed with skinny women, people with size fetishes can sometimes have a shallow view of relationships. The key is finding someone who loves you as a person, not just for your appearance. Everything else falls into place over time. Weight matters mainly for health reasons, and any changes should be for yourself, not for someone else. Why don't women get excited by pictures of male noodle wands the way men do when they see pictures of women? You're starting from the wrong assumption. Women can get turned on by that kind of pic, but it depends entirely on the context. If it's from a guy I actually like, whew, spicy. If it's from a guy I've clearly told I'm not interested in, that's just harassment. I personally do get turned on by them, but here's the thing. Most noodle pics aren't really for us. The lighting's awful, the angle is awkward, the photo's blurry, the background is a mess. Guys just aren't good at making it look appealing. It's like they can't step out of the spotlight for 2 seconds and think about what actually excites women. Meanwhile, women are usually socialized to put themselves second and focus on the man's pleasure. So these pics, they're more about men wanting approval than about turning us on. That said, I'm still a straight woman, and honestly, any picture of a noodle wand triggers an immediate physical reaction in me. Context just decides whether it's wow, hot, or ew, why? Why do women get more into astrology and magic than men? World religions, to be honest, haven't had the best track record when it comes to how they treat women. My wife and I grew up in the same religion and community, but she faced way more pressure than I did. Her mom was a bit quirky too, more focused on cultural norms than strict religious practice. So my wife didn't form a very positive impression of religion. She stayed spiritual, but didn't feel connected to the religion itself. That's when she started exploring other things like astrology and magic. Here's my theory. Historically, magic was a way for women to gain some power. In gender-segregated cultures, like the Rift region in North Africa, women in magic have always been closely linked. It's said that when women gathered at the market, men were wary of what they were talking about and the magical knowledge being exchanged. Women could also build small economies around magic, selling charms, talismans, or spells in which they specialized. I'm not sure if that directly explains why women are interested in magic today, but it's one possible connection. Thanks so much for watching. In the comments, feel free to ask about things you're afraid to bring up, and don't forget to check out our other videos. See you next time.